right, up next, we've got Abhinav and Sonu who are joining us to talk a little bit about the different aspects of, you could call it embracing the digital transformation or actually benchmarking where you are in your own digital transformation. So both of them have deep experience here. Sonu has been in the industry for a while. He said, and I quote, that he's thought about going into other industries, but he likes the complexity and chaos of the mortgage industry. And that's why he's still here. Abhinav heads up product here at Tavant. So with both of those up, you all are up next. Please join in.
Thank you, Brad. My video, I'm trying to turn it on. It says it's been turned off by the host. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Brad and team, for having me join this session. By the way, I've been listening the whole time. It's been incredibly insightful so far. So, just to quickly introduce myself, I lead our Citizens mortgage business. Joined a little bit over 2 years ago, and excited to talk about how we are continuing to figure out ways to serve our customers and our colleagues in a better way.
Thanks, Sonu, for making time for us today. I know there's a long history personally between how long we've known each other back from your Capital One days and now at Citizens. And this morning, I think today we've heard a lot about data in the context, but I think one of the other areas that is as important as creating a data-driven culture is around getting the design right. And a lot of people associate design with great-looking websites and mobile apps and so on. But I'm going to take a twist to this. I know you run the business, you run the retail mortgage division for Citizens, so it's not easy in these virtual interaction days. My question, I'd like to open this conversation with, how do you see the elements of design come together for a three-part question? The ever-changing needs of your consumers, because this is a virtual world now, your employee engagement, because they're also virtual, and then any third-party engagement that you deal with in the space. So across those three, stakeholders, how do you see design playing a role?
Yeah, no, great question, Abhinav. So I think the first thing I'll say is, Charles Ames, one of the famous designers, has a quote which says, if you don't understand something, you can't design solutions for it. Right? This is super important because it hits right at the heart of everything we do. Either it's your end customer, either it's your colleagues, either it's your partners. You want to make sure you are focused on, sitting in their seat and looking at the world from their eyes, not from your eyes. I think, a lot of times, especially in mortgage, we solve for the 3 C's, right? How can we do credit, capacity, collateral, right? How can we get things from point A to point B as quickly, as efficiently as we can? However, with the world we are operating in, there's 2 additional C's from my perspective, which we've had to put a lot of emphasis on, is communication and care. If you think about customers, they are not on the surface, the verbatims may tell you, or the experience may say is, hey, it's taking longer than I expected to close my loan. However, what they're really looking for is, are you providing me the clarity? Because I have so much going on. I have tremendous amount of change coming at me personally and professionally this year especially, right? How are you helping me not worry about one more thing, right? If I'm thinking about colleagues, I have roughly 1,400 colleagues in my business. More than 50% of them did not work from home. I still remember March 5th. I was on vacation, and when I saw the events take place, our first priority was, how do we make sure all our colleagues are able to get home safely? We prioritize their safety, and then we also have to make sure we help the customers, at the unprecedented volume which we are all, facing. How do we make sure we help customers take advantage of refinancing? Because right now with the rates, it's almost like a financial stimulus, right? So it was balancing both. And then lastly is, when it comes to the third-party engagement, from my perspective is, you've heard from me this before, is we don't look at partnering with as many vendors as we can or as many third parties. We look at it as how can we actually make it a more of a two-way street. It's a partnership rather than just do this one service and do another service. So that's the way we've been operating. We've been doing, and the productivity comment I'll just say is when you think about colleague productivity, I think there's two ends of the spectrum. You have tenured colleagues or employees who are already doing their roles. As they've shifted to work from home, once we got them situated, their productivity is actually the same or higher. And then you have, in mortgage industry, we've all been growing and adding capacity, to serve the customers who are in the money to be able to refi. You're seeing is that the new hires, they don't have that benefit of sitting next to someone and getting to shadow how we do things. So we've had to retailer our whole training plan, our onboarding plan, and how do we make sure that we set them up for success? Because even though they're new hires at Citizen, they are still also dealing with COVID. So.
That's I think you hit your message was pretty clear that getting all of your existing business to transition from in office to go work from home or do business from home, and though doing that seamlessly as if nothing changed. So that is the right design. I think I go back to one of the very early comments I read when I was starting to think about get into this design thinking mode of my life, was a memo from T.J. Watson Jr. at IBM in 1966, where he said that good design is good business. This is as old as 1966 when he was talking of design thinking 5 decades ago. Why do you think it's become such an important thing for the C-suite across industry verticals today? Like, what has changed in the last 5-6 years that has brought design to the center of C-suite discussions?
So one, I truly believe in that statement or the comment which you just made. I think I look at it as specifically, let's talk about mortgages. Mortgage industry, mortgage product is becoming a commodity. Everyone is offering similar products, similar pricing, similar service. It's all about, are you meeting customer where they want to meet? Are you working with the customer in a way that makes them feel good? So, when I think about that, if either it's in C-suite or either it's in other senior executive, forums, if we are not thinking back from what customers are telling us, and we are spending more time defending what a verbatim or either it's voice of the customer, all the different avenues you collect feedback, you're spending more time defending it rather than truly looking at it as are your processes and your experiences truly sound. That's where really this comes into play. I look at it as, and I know you and I've talked about this, is I look at feedback as gift, and you have to take care of things short term, go and solve the problem at hand, but then you also got to do the root cause analysis is, okay, what are the things in our environment which need to change to make sure that we don't continue to repeat the same mistakes again.
And then that's very important in today's world, and I think it's also a culture, right? So if you, as you said, right, it's not just a C-suite level. If it's seeped into your business as a culture where every individual, all your 1,400 colleagues think about it as a DNA as opposed to an enforced thought process. My original thought was to ask you about 5 such areas, but I'm going to ask you the top 3 areas that you see coming together for your teams and how they think about meeting the customer where the customer wants to meet them. Like, how do they approach this? I know you have a vision, your leadership team has a vision, but at an employee level, an underwriter or a processor or a closer, how does your business inculcate that habit of them thinking about meeting the customer where they need to meet them? Like, what do you do there?
Yeah, so I think great question. It all starts with, we all have seen it or have experienced, you have multiple systems and they don't talk to each other. And you call different employees and one employee tells you that, hey, I only can tell you what I know. That's not my area of expertise. And those things are way gone, right? The customer expectations are if I'm calling someone at Tavant or someone at Citizens, I expect them to be my quarterback of the transaction, right? So the couple things I'll say on there is one, making sure, either it's your CRM, either it's your point of sale, either it's your workflow tool or loan origination system. How do you make sure they're all connected and the whole ecosystem is connected and you're unlocking the full potential rather than just optimizing for each of them on vertical basis? And second is, from communication pathways, do you have clear roles and responsibilities? And I think Henry said something earlier which was, very, very critical. A lot of times folks think about digital transformation as just a technology thing. It's not just a technology thing. It's technology, it's process redesign, and it's also people. And when I say people, it's not that someone may not be the right person for the role. The skills they may need to operate in the new environment, what they may need to communicate, what they may need to do needs to change, and how are we enabling that? Because, when I think about, last comment I'll make on that is, a lot of times, even though it's positive change, it's still change. And folks underestimate that you still need to take folks through their change curve to get them to adopt, because just rolling out a product, rolling out a service, or connecting something is not going to automatically be the way we serve the customer.
That's that. It's interesting. You talked about and you referred to Henry's earlier comments, and I also go back to what Dino was saying around KTLO, keeping the lights on. But it's a little more challenging for a bank like yourselves as compared to non-bank institutions where you have existing captive audience. These are bank customers who've banked with Citizens for a long time, and when they come to you for a mortgage, then you talked about the siloed systems and individual bringing all of this together. In your world, it's not just your business systems together, but also the bank systems that come from where you have customer records that are at most value in delivering that experience. How do you see that being leveraged? And do you guys do anything special around that? Because the fact that if I come to Sonu for a loan and I'm an existing customer of Citizens, I'm expecting that you would know much more about me than if I went to someone who I've never done business with. So how do you manage that part of the design process and the expectations to meet there?
Yeah, so I think few comments on that one. First is, even though we have customers who may have some kind of relationship with Citizens, actually the bar is higher for us because they are looking for us to provide that same exceptional experience they received from either our business bankers or our branch bankers. So how do we make sure that we continue to enhance the brand from mortgage perspective rather than, impact it adversely? I think with that said, mortgage line of business was actually one of the first ones who took on the digital transformation journey at Citizens back in 2018 when I joined and a few other leaders with me. And you'll see hear a lot from our CEO and our head of consumer about the transformation which we have going on around the company. And one of the things which we are very committed to is, are we making sure we are keeping things in mind, not just within the business, but also connecting with the data, to your point, with the enterprise data, enterprise marketing strategy? Because if you think about it, from bank standpoint, we don't want to market the customer or meet them when they have a need for 7 products at the same time. We want customers to be able to interact with us and enable that capability so that they can work with us. So I think the bar is higher. We are on a journey. I like to say, when we kick that off, somebody asked me so we defined the initial backlog on the Agile pod, and somebody asked me so when will the pod be done? The pods are never done. Their backlog will change. Their scope may change. It may be more focused on process or, a digital tool, but it's continuous improvement. So that's how we think about it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting comment that you make there. At Tavant, and it's kind of a cultural thing, comes all the way from Sarvesh, our CEO, where if you have a successful product, your teams don't size down; they always size up because you're going to continue to invest in what's working better for you and make it even more better, right? I'm going to actually take a little detour here and go towards data. all of these, design principles eventually have to result in data and metrics that give you a sense of what's working for you, what's not working for you. So in a quick, minute or so, how do you see leaders like yourselves, what kind of data should you be looking for that tells you whether your design is working or not?
So I think it's a great question. So one, you have to have a clear mission, and we use the construct of town, neighborhood, and pods, right? So we have, so mortgage is a town. We have a clear mission. Why do we exist? Why are we here within Citizens doing what we do? And then within that mission, then we also define OKRs, which we call it objectives and key results. And a lot of times, what we are looking at it is most of the time is the outcome metrics, either it's net promoter score, either it's CPL, either it's, percentage of digital adoption. But as you go down to the neighborhood level and the pod level, and there's primary and the secondary OKRs, Abhinav, which are more in-process metrics. So when we are talking to the pod, when we're talking to operations example, to underwriters, we're not talking about, hey, what is the cost to originate a loan? We're talking about how many times we are touching a loan and why are we touching them, right? So I think it all starts with have a clear mission, clear OKRs, and then be very mindful of what is output metric, what is in-process metric. And I think the biggest thing I'll say in all this is it's important also to clearly articulate what you're not going to work on, because when we took on this journey, we found there was work which was being done, which we are like, it's not actually the highest leverage work or the highest priority work in our roadmap.
Wonderful. And I know we are over time on this one. This is a very interesting conversation.
No, Abhinav, we're gonna do one more question. This is
actually, I was going to say instead of me asking the next question, do we have a couple from the audience that you'd want to ask Sonu to answer?
We do, and we're gonna actually throw a really tough one out at you guys, at both of you, to be honest with you. So our industry, the lending industry, cares pretty much 95% of the time about the origination, not what happens after the loan is originated in the service. And the question comes up, you talked about communication and care, two things that we probably don't talk about enough. Let's take communication and care past origination. And once a loan is originated on your platform, a Citizens customer, or maybe not a Citizens customer, how do we talk about that aspect of it from the servicing side?
So Brad, I'll give you my quick comment. I actually spoke about this at the Digital Mortgage Conference last year. It seems like 10 years ago, given the world we live in. So we are looking at our end-to-end customer journey. We are not stopping it after we've closed the loan. We are looking at through servicing, and in some cases, as you know, there's an unforeseen circumstance where it may also end up defaulting, so we are looking at the full cycle, because when you think about it, is originations, customer may spend 10 days, 30 days, 60 days with you, but servicing is where they live with you for the longest, and that area a lot of times don't get the right level of attention. So the transformation journey which we took on was focused end to end, not just, how do we make sure the front end looks really great with a really awesome CRM and a really awesome digital application. It was how do we, in some ways, when a customer is looking to make a payment, they can decide, does it make sense for them to refinance? Does it make sense they may be selling their house and buying a new one? So how do we have that full life cycle cared for? That's the way we've been looking at Citizens. We are not fully there, but we are way on our way, or we are way ahead to get where we need to get to deliver that experience.
That's great. And Abhinav, if you had your own lending company,
how
would you answer that?
To take Sonu's thought forward, the way I see it in the space is that when you're past origination, regardless of whether it was an existing customer of Citizens in this case or a net new customer, you still have much more data enrichment on your side to know what the customer and who that customer is. So it should be a further more enhanced and enriched experience for them in the servicing world. I think that's the way we look at this as well at Tavant. And in fact, when you think about products, that's the kind of design principles that we keep in mind. So, and we can talk about that in a separate forum, but I totally agree with how Sonu put that. So,
yeah, We had another question that came in, and I'll punt on part of the question. It has to do with the optimal cost per funded loan coming in these days. But at a bank, and it can be Citizens or someone else, is it realistic to use lending, whether it's a mortgage or a credit card, to acquire new customers versus the traditional checking and savings account route?
So I think from my perspective, I look at it as the answer is not or, it's and. You have to have it both ways. You know, when we look at it as we are looking to acquire or bring new customers to the bank by adding distribution. We've been growing our loan officer base and our wholesale AEs and our correspondent lenders, given we have diversification with all those three businesses. We are doing that and bringing new customers to the bank. But at the same time, we also have that relationship with our retail bank partners and wealth and others is how do we continue to provide service, either it's someone looking to buy a house for the first time or maybe looking to buy a second home or looking to refinance, how do we serve our existing customers as well? So I don't think it's, you know, one approach. I think it's a dual approach, which we've been focused on.
All right, great. So with that, across the two of you, any closing thoughts? 15 seconds, closing thoughts, and then we're going to move on.
I will let Sonu close, and then I'll thank him for that.
So I think, hey, I appreciate the opportunity, and you know, I hope everyone is everyone continues to stay safe. If you would like to learn a little bit more about Citizens, feel free to reach out. We are going to continue to grow, and again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sonu, so much for spending the time with us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhinav.
Sonu, before you leave, two numbers between 1 and 220.
So can you tell me which one is my number? No, I'm kidding.
You're not eligible.
Let's go with 72.
And 72 is Lisa Perry. So congratulations, Lisa. And then one more number.
Let's go with 85.
85 is Dylan Sims. Congratulations, Lisa and Dylan's. I'll reach out to you all after this. With that, Sonu, Abhinav, thank you all very much.